going on, everybody? GeekSummit back at it again. Sitting here with my official release of the Mezco 1/12 Collective Superman 1978 Christopher Reeve style figure. I waited and waited and waited. It finally came in the mail. Showed up yesterday about lunch on a Sunday. So this was my Valentine's gift to myself. Super awesome figure. I'm super happy to have it. Obviously, I know a lot of people have been griping about various aspects of the figure, and I can kind of see where folks are coming from, in regards to the, some of the specific details of how things come together. But really, I think they did a great job. I think one of the biggest weaknesses of the figure is how the cape comes together and the shoulders. It's actually, it's a wired cape, which is good, so you have a certain amount of control over how the cape presents itself. But the fact that they have sewn it into the costume primarily has kind of created this weird bacon neck collar that people have been calling it. The way it behaves across the chest is a little odd. I do see some ways to kind of push that around a little bit, but at the same time, the way everything's come together, it does kind of prevent it from staying in that form. I've also noticed that the belt is actually, basically welded or glued onto the costume. So, right here where the shorts meet the trunk, where the trunks meet the bodysuit, basically it is like that forever. I assume some of the craftier people could get that busted apart without destroying the thing, but I was a little disappointed to see that maybe I couldn't push the costume up a little bit from the torso without, stretching or distorting. But it looks like it's there to stay. It's gonna bug me. But if there's anything I can do to get in here and kind of make it behave the way I'd like it to, I definitely will, as long as I don't destroy the costume. That's the main concern. But yeah, man, I think it looks great. They're the little things. The hip joints sticking out a little bit. I might elect to try and take some cotton batting, just a really thin layer of it, and try and pipe it down into the costume and maybe stuff it around those leg joints to make those a little bit less apparent. But past that, and maybe, just maybe, trying to correct the cape on my own, those are the only two things I think I would do to try and alter the figure. I will say I was a little bugged by this guy right here, and I'll try and zoom in on it. The wiring in the cape is actually busted through the hem, and it was like this out of the box. But it looks like since the wire's kind of fish hooked there's no way to actually just kind of pipe it back into the costume without possibly further fraying that cape somehow. And other than that, when it comes to the cape, that S-Man is honking big right there on the back. Still, it's there, and it's it's a pretty accurate cut of the S, but I will say that is pretty big, and the way the cape rides up on the back is a little weighty, so there's no real good way to fix that. But overall, I would say for what it is we were expecting, crossed with the fact that this is a mass market, relatively mass market. It's a Mezco collector market action figure. I think they did as good a job as we could expect. I want to get it into one good pose and leave it alone. I don't want to mess with it so much that the costume gets nasty from finger oils. This material they've used on the bodysuit, it's a really fine fabric. To say that it's pretty thin, it seems, but for that it's still pretty opaque. But I have worried a little bit about just pushing things around too much, getting snags, and doing anything that might damage the figure. But now that we're here, here at Geek Summit, we have been working on a Christopher Reeve figure for quite a while. I started working on these back in March, I guess. I started messing around with fabric and just trying to find my way to the complete presentation that is a 6-inch Christopher Reeve with a fabric costume, so you don't have joints and all this other stuff, because I, along with everybody else in the Superman fan community, I loved this guy when he came out, the NECA 7-inch figure, which at the time was the best one going. It's the only one that had been released in this kind of scale. and it was great. I love the figure. I jumped into a few of these and did some wired fabric capes on those as well, just because it was a nice little extra to make mine my own, to make it the best I thought it could be. But anyway, getting back to the GeekSummit style 6-inch figure. We did a lot of work when it comes to figuring out the body proportions. This is built on a DC Multiverse Shazam figure, because it just had it had the proper scale and build, and it was a tall body, it was a lean body. Of course, you get that fabric on there and everything kind of bulks up a little bit, just because of the thickness of the fabric. But we got in here and we used some stuffing in the chest and actually in the trunks as well. Just go to say it, to kind of pad things out, and just kind of make things play a little bit better when it comes to posing. Not to say we got to have some junk kicking around in there, but it does kind of help hide those obvious joint lines that show through the costume. But yeah, we did a lot of work trying to figure out the boots as well, to kind of mimic that double M shape, or double V, I guess, the V cut to the swashbuckler boots, as well as finishing the feet themselves in the same material. So you have posable boots, articulated boots, and then boots that match pretty well to how they were built in the movies. Then also on the back we have the S on the cape, which is pretty appropriate size, I would think. And the wire that we put in our cape actually runs the full length of the cape, so from tip to tip and all the way through the neckline. So we actually have some control over how that neckline behaves, which I think would have been a really good move with this figure, but they let the stitching do the job. And that was another thing while making this, was I don't sew, so all of this was done without any sewing. It's not exactly a preference. It's more a matter of my skill set. And on top of that, if I was to put the hours into anything, I would not want it to be the sewing. I don't have a sewing machine, so to speak, and doing it hand stitch would just be kind of like stop motion animation. A lot of work for a small return. So I use Heat and Bond, which is the name of the product. It's basically a fabric adhesive that comes on a roll. It's probably about 20 feet by 1.5 feet, I guess. And so I use that for the hems on my cape, which it looks like they kind of did. No, I don't see stitches on the Mezco cape. So it looks like they're kind of going with a heat fuse as well, when it comes to the cape anyway. But as far as doing the figure itself, no sewing goes into the bodysuit or the trunks or the boots. Everything is basically built or welded with heat and bond, excuse me. But yeah, I think we did a pretty good job for an individual effort, for sure. The head cast comes off of a shrunken version of the Hot Toys head, and that was basically my mission, was to make a miniature version of the Hot Toys figure, to the best of my ability. Because that's what I wanted in my collection, was a small version that fit in with the rest of everything else in my basic run of collection. That's 6 inches, 7 inches, and I think we accomplished that pretty well. But of course, once I'd gotten this guy to where I wanted it to be, which was somewhere around June, May, June, they hit us on June 12th, Superman Day, they called it, with the announcement of the Mezco figure. And this is my first actual Mezco purchase. And so, if I was going to spend the money, it was going to be on this figure. And so I did it. And, 6 to 8 months later, they came through. And I can't complain. It is about what I expected it to be. I was familiar with kind of the bulkiness of Mezco figures when it comes to their costumes. Just kind of sitting up on the figure just a little bit, because fabric is tough. Fabric is tough to work with, for sure. Especially when you're trying to bring it down to this scale. It can't be easy to nail it. It just can't be. Especially when it comes to a figure in tights. There's not a lot of room to hide those extra stitches. There's just not. Something I noticed on the Mezco figures, the way that the costume comes together in the back, where you might expect just one seam, just going right up the middle of the back to close it up. They have this peculiar seam that kind of comes down and it starts to taper right here at the rib cage. So I mean, they were trying to make it as close and tight as they could, and you know, it's giving my figure a weird little nipple, I guess, back here on the back of the rib cage. You know, it might not be the same with other people's figures, but a lot of times that's just how the hem on the inside is laying down under all that fabric. But like I said, for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how this thing has turned out. I can't complain, especially not in front of the wife, because I spent $125 on this thing. So, and I got it on Valentine's Day, so I better not complain, right? But anyway, love what they did. I'm happy with it. I'm also incredibly happy with my efforts. But yeah, I've definitely been waiting on this moment to be able to compare the two of them. For myself and anybody else who's seen my work, I'd love to hear anybody's input on what we've done versus Mezco. You know, it's been a fun process, but it's good to see the two of them side by side and just kind of check myself by you know, a company that does this for a living and versus a dude who is just kind of cutting things up at the dining room table and trying to make something happen. So anyway, thanks for watching. I know it's a long one. I'll try and edit it down if I can, or speed up the track a little bit. Scoot this along. But yeah, thanks for looking. Leave a like, subscribe. Come on back. I'd love to do some tutorials and things for folks. I know folks have been asking about the costumes themselves, as well as doing the capes, which I have done one tutorial just recently, and of course my Dark Knight tutorial from probably about 7 or 8 years ago has gotten quite a bit of views. But yeah, definitely come on back, leave a like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.